We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do us well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this rebel outpost. If you want to support this home for college football sickos like you with a donation, hit the $ where you make a comment, and I'll get to you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with the comments and with your phone calls later in the show. Happy Easter. For those who do not celebrate, happy Sunday, April 20th. It's also my brother's birthday. My oldest brother's Bill's birthday. My middle sister's birthday was yesterday, and mine is April 23rd. 3 birthdays in 5 days in the Pflugar family. Now, I'm the youngest of 6, so all these are older. Much, much, much older than myself. But so congratulations to Sue yesterday. Congratulations to Bill today. Happy Easter, everybody. We're going to talk a little bit of college football. Now, yesterday, I wanted to do a live show today. Even though it's Easter, I know a lot of you are busy. You're going to just check it out and you're going to go out of the chat I completely understand. A lot of you are never going to watch this show because, again, it's a very special day. But for those who might have a little bit of a time, or those who might be thinking about a little bit of college football in April, I figured let's do a show. Before the Houston Rockets Golden State Warriors game tonight, before WrestleMania Part 2 happens tonight, I thought maybe we would do a live show. But then earlier today, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if we should do one. Maybe people will even get upset with me. Now, all of you are upset with me one way or the other anyways, but I don't want to, I don't want to push you completely over the edge. I mean, who wants to listen to? Who wants to look at the fat guy from Minnesota on Easter Sunday? Nobody. Truly nobody. Nobody. But then there was a story that popped that I found real interesting. Just somebody in the Pac-12 leadership said something, and when I read it, it was like, whoa! Oh, wait, what? I read it again, I read it again. And I got a feeling that nobody else is going to talk about it. It was just the slightest piece of nugget of information. The slightest. But when you look at it, and we're going to play psychologist here today at Peek Around the Corner, it leaves you, it left me the impression, Dr. Flugar, it left me the impression that the Pac-12, in some manner or form, is still dreaming Memphis. They're still dreaming Memphis as an add-on to the conference. It's why we have the title screen. Pac-12. You see the 7 full members in Gonzaga. Still dreaming Memphis on April 20th? Now, we got to be honest here, Peek Around the Corner. I've already said, in my strongly held, firm opinion, that Memphis is not going to join the Pac-12. And if they do, I'm going to take the big L here at Peek Around the Corner. So, could this be a little hint, a little wink, a possibility that the fat guy from Minnesota is finally going to take a big L on this show? Maybe. I'm very interested to see what you guys think about this little bit of nugget that I'm going to show you all. I don't think Memphis is going to the Pac-12. I think it would take a lot of money. A lot of exposure, a lot of money for Memphis to travel westward in every sport. For Memphis to leave its core region when it comes to competition for basketball, for just one example. But if the Pac-12 is still dreaming of Memphis, if that is the case, maybe the Pac-12 is getting a media deal estimate that they think they can still lure in a Memphis and a Tulane. I don't think it's going to happen, but I do think that somebody in the Pac-12, according to the report that came out, still is dreaming Memphis. And I am very interested to see what you guys what you think about this report Again, it's just a little nugget. It's just a one-sentence little nugget, but it is something that I am very interested to talk about. Ryan Willie, thank you so much for the super chat. Happy Easter, Ryan Willie. In my opinion, the PAC will die. I don't think it's going to die. Now, is it going to be one of the G6 conferences? Yes. It's probably going to have the highest media package of all the 6G conferences. So the conference is not going to die. It's just, unfortunately, the Pac-12, Washington State and Oregon State are no longer going to be part of an autonomous conference. But other than that, when it comes to the G6 landscape, I think the Pac-12 is going to be at the very top. Thank you for the super chat, Ryan Willie. I appreciate it. Then we're going to talk about what has become the Rodney Dangerfield of athletic departments, the universities, and that is Utah. On social media, Utah has become Rodney Dangerfield, getting no respect. Getting no respect. Some of this is their own undoing, right? Some of this is them being honest, too honest in public. Kyle Whittingham, the athletic director, the fans don't believe they really fit in the Big 12. So some of this is their fault. No question about it. But also Utah on X, on the message boards, on social media, Utah is seriously undervalued. We are going to get into that here at Peek Around the Corner. We're going to start with the Pac-12 story. Again, it's going to be a shorter monologue. It's Easter Sunday. We're going to open up the phone lines earlier than usual. I hope you guys have a great day with your family, friends, loved ones. Thanks for joining me. But we're going to get in and out of here so you can enjoy life instead of looking at the fat guy from Minnesota. I do appreciate it. Let's do a quick roll call. LSU Tiger, Ryan Brooks, the Evil Badger, Jeff Olson, 21 Bucket 21, R Webb Coy, CFB Plus is in the house. Day One Rob is here. Christopher Shannon, Utah really has legs? I talked about it. No, they do not have legs into the Big Ten. In this current landscape, during this, what is going to happen next realignment wave. But there is a however, and we're going to go through that however. No matter how much it hurts like the BYU fans, I love you, man. But man, you guys are hypersensitive about anything about Utah. In Utah, you guys are hypersensitive about anything of BYU. I get it. Holy war. But holy smokes, you guys really turn it up. The decimal level on this is, my goodness. So anyways, I'm going to get everybody upset with me today. That is my job. Stormy Cyclone. Happy Easter, Mr. Cottontail. RT's in the house. Sean Tumasta. The PAC is whack. The Observer. RT, Daniel Gorby, Bob Swinger, John Dry, Lee Matt Schnuck is in the house. Gene Calderon, Bo Weevil is here. Anthony Carlson, Hussam Kinnison. You know what? I had a school in mind, but I'm not even going to say it. I'm not touching that one, Mr. Carlson. I'm not going to touch that one. Caleb Ramirez. Steel Austin is in the house. Rock and Rant is here. Mick Stevens. Don Scruggs. Happy birthday to Wendy. She was 25 yesterday, but turned 56. Happy birthday, Wendy. Thanks for letting your husband coming on in here in the chat room. Thanks for Wendy for listening once in a while. Wendy's the only one who appreciates my singing voice. The only one out there. Hopefully I did not just tell a lie. Who else is here? Coy is in the house. Yeah, we're going to get to that Nico story. Skaven, yes, Mr. Cornhusker is here. Timo Everywhere Rambler is in the house. The PAC is better option than the current AAC and will be better than a future watered down ACC. Interesting. I think Memphis is foolish not to join the PAC. But you're probably right. They never make wise decisions. Oftentimes, Memphis has not been able to get the option. Most of the time, Memphis is on the outside looking in. And we'll get into the reasons why that is here in a little bit. King Spleen is in the house. Wild Ute is here. Mr. Ute Jackson Johnson is in the house. MBM is here. Okay. All right. I think we got it. Let's get to it right away. We want to do a short monologue. We want to get to your phone calls as quick as possible. We want to get you sickos, you college football sickos, back to your family and loved ones. I don't mind being here all day. The wife worked in the hospital today on a very busy day because of skeleton crew. She just went to bed. She's going to sleep for a long time. She's exhausted. I got family over, taking over. They're taking care of my mother. So I'm all free. But I know you guys are not. You guys have got responsibilities and loved ones. So we're going to get to them as quick as possible. Now, we talked about this yesterday in the portal update. The whole Nico to UCLA was not official yet. But it sounds like it's getting closer. Pete Thamel, sources. The UCLA staff has informed the team's current quarterbacks of the expected transfer of Tennessee quarterback Nico. I'm leaving on a jet plane to UCLA. This is a key step that shows the discussions between UCLA and I'm leaving are significant. A formal decision is expected in the near future. So you got Aguilar there, the quarterback who came from App State. At least he knows that it looks like Nico's coming on in. So now he's got a little bit of time left, the option to get his name in the portal. So it looks like it's going to happen. Not official yet, but I think we're knocking on that door. The door's about to open. Nico, UCLA quarterback. Interesting times for the Bruins next year. Now, let's get to the big story. Then we're going to get to the Pac-12 now. We are going to get to this Pac-12 now. This little bit of nugget, this little bit of information that was dropped, and it really, I mean, most people, look, a lot, I'm going to go through this, and probably a good 80% of you, 90% of you are going to say, Greg, that means absolutely nothing. Greg, your cheese have slipped off your cracker. You may be right. But I don't think so. I do not think so. Let's go through this story that probably 95% of you have not seen. The Daily Evergreen. The Daily Evergreen. The popular daily evergreen, the student voice of Washington State University since, I don't know what that says, 1895, something like that. Something like that. President Cantwell on sports. The future of the Pac-12. New Washington State president believes the Pac-12 should stay west of the Mississippi. Okay. All right. So what does this have to do with Memphis? Memphis is not west of the Mississippi. Greg, you screwed up. Greg, you've already screwed up. Just be patient. Just be patient. New Washington State President Elizabeth Cantwell gave insight into where she sees the future of the Pac-12. Cantwell does not have the final say on any decision about the Pac-12. Of course not. She's not athletic director or the member of the Pac-12 governing board. She's a vote. Washington State has a lot of stroke, of course, in the new Pac-12. However, as the president of one of the conference flagship schools, she does have a voice in any Pac-12 rebuild discussions. Okay, that's obvious, right? That is obvious. Hang with me here. Hang with me. There's more change to come in the Pac, said Cantwell. She said the Pac-12 was an incredible, enduring brand, and that the new Pac-12 was going to have to shape its own identity. For Utah State, it was a step in the upward direction, Cantwell said. For the Pac-2, it was about preserving the brand. She said if it was up to her, she would keep the Pac-12 West, honoring its namesake, its history, and its student athletes' time. Okay, so she's making it clear where Washington State stands. Wants to keep it as a Western G6 conference, a Western conference, to honor the namesake, the PAC, the Pacific Coast, the Pacific Athletic Conference. Its history and its students, athletes' time, to cut down on travel. I really would like to see a successful, at least high mid-tier conference that doesn't send student athletes all over the country, Cantwell said. Let's say west of the Mississippi, or let's say on the Mississippi. Let's say west of the Mississippi. Whoa. Let me rethink that. Or let's say on the Mississippi. We will circle back to that comment. The Mississippi River comment is an intriguing hint at what schools might still be in discussions with the Pac-12. The University of Memphis, an AAC school that turned down an offer from the Pac-12 in September, is located right on the Mississippi River. Sports Illustrated columnist Paul Lunenberg wrote in January about what makes Memphis such a good fit for the growing Pac-12 conference. With a strong national brand and a competitive football and men's basketball program, Memphis is arguably the premier athletics program outside of the Power Four in the Pac-12, wrote Lundberg. Now, with a strong national brand, competitive football and men's basketball program, the Sports Illustrated columnist is saying it's the premier athletic department program outside of the current Power Four and outside of the current Pac-12. However, he admitted there is nothing Pacific about Memphis. Meanwhile, Cal Dayton of the Hartford Current newspaper reported in September that the University of Connecticut was in talks with the Pac-12. UConn, as it is more often referred to, is decidedly not close to the Mississippi River. According to Ross Dellinger, the Huskies initially had conversations with the conference about joining as a football-only member, but have discussed full-time membership as well, wrote Dayton. And finally, in the article, it still appears to be unclear where the future of the Pac-12 will go, but Cantwell remains committed to helping student athletes thrive in all aspects of their lives. So much is coming at them, Cantwell said. We have a lot of work to do with our student athletes just to be by their side as they are moving forward into this weird world. Okay. So, let's get back to this. Now, you probably heard the reports of John Wilner, John Casano, and others. Washington State and Oregon State, they really have more power than the other schools. It is written in their gore. It is written in there. I mean, they literally have veto pen. We talk about how there's not one school in the SEC that has the veto pen and one school in the Big Ten that don't have the veto pen and expansion, except for this time with the Buckeyes and Penn State. But in the new Pac-12, it is literally written in there that Washington State and Oregon State have to approve the expansion, and then the other schools will get the vote on it. So what Cantwell says is more important than what Boise State says, than what San Diego State athletic director says, what everybody else says. So when Cantwell yesterday, let's say west of the Mississippi, or let's say on the Mississippi. Everything west of the Mississippi, or let's say on the Mississippi. Now, as you all know, the University of Memphis is just east of the Mississippi. Tulane is west of the Mississippi. So when Cantwell, she said everything west of the Mississippi. Oh, wait. You can almost. We're playing psychologist here. We're playing Dr. Flugar here. Tulane is on the Mississippi. Yep. But you can just see here going, I want this Western Conference west of the Mississippi. Wait. Or on the Mississippi. Now, this was an article of yesterday. Evergreen Sports co-editor Levi Couvert. So that is why the title of this, the title screen of this live show is Pac-12 Still Dreaming Memphis? Now maybe that was more aspirational, what the Washington State president said. Maybe in the future, anything west of the Mississippi or on the Mississippi. But here we are in April 20th. And that comment has to do with Memphis. I mean, they're just east of the Mississippi. So they did not qualify when she said west of the Mississippi. So she put in there on than Mississippi. Tulane, Memphis, of course, if you're talking about Memphis, you're going to be talking about Tulane because they're just a really good duo, right? That's a good combo. So the Pac-12 still having discussions. Look what the AAC has just done. They put in all this new unequal revenue sharing rules in the AAC. Eat more of what you kill. If the Pac-12 is still having discussions with Memphis and Tulane, and again, I don't think Memphis is going to go to the Pac-12, and if they do, we're going to have a great show. I'm going to take the big L on it, okay? I'll probably have to eat a cheeseburger live in front of the camera. But if they are having discussions, if they truly are, if Memphis hasn't totally closed the door on the Pac-12, and it seems like they haven't, because the Washington State president, I think she said that in a moment of, on the Mississippi. And she just said that, and it's April 20th. I think there are two reasons why if they are having discussions, I think there's two main reasons why. Two of them. One, maybe there is a possibility of that media money for the Pac-12 being a little bit higher than people expected. Maybe the CW and a streaming partner plus another media, maybe they're going to, if they bring in Tulane and Memphis, maybe that number exceeds $12 million per school. If you get Memphis and Tulane in there, maybe that number goes a little bit higher. Maybe it's a little bit higher than we all think. There's another reason why I think if the discussions are going on, Memphis has been a school. Memphis is a good example, a great example. On a lower scale, but it still works. Memphis is a great example of a school that has not been able to get to where they believe they should get to, where they believe their peers are at. We're not able to get to the Big 12. They're not been able to get to the ACC. They look great on spreadsheets. They look good in the metrics. Their brand, their achievements, their football, basketball versus other G5 conference schools, they're at the very top. But they lose out on the intangibles, and they know it. They lose out on the fact, the other universities are looking at them and saying, well, the University of Memphis, they don't quite have the qualifications when it comes to academics. When it comes to success in academics, when it comes to, they have too low of a bar for access into whatever that is. A whole bunch of things go into that. And that has hurt Memphis. Not enough housing at Memphis. All these intangibles that these other presidents at other conferences look at, Memphis has been poked and prodded to death on those. It's a reason why I think, getting into the Pac-12 changes the brand of Memphis. It changes that. It gives them a lift. No question about it. I still don't think they're going to go. I still don't think they're going to go. I still don't think it's going to get done. But if they're still talking, if Memphis has left the door open to the point where Washington State President Cantwell is dropping that comment, I really would like to see a successful, at least a high mid-tier conference, and that's what the Pac-12 would be. They would be a high mid-tier conference that doesn't send student athletes all over the country. Cantwell's letting you know what she's been thinking. Let's say west of the Mississippi, or let's say on the Mississippi. On the Mississippi is Memphis. So, a story that I thought was all done, shut. I still don't think Memphis is going there. But we cannot be in our own silo here at College Football Peek Around the Corner. We got to have a curiosity. We got to keep looking outward. Cantwell drops a little bit of this speech in there, kind of throws that in there. I think maybe there's a little bit something to it. Let me know what you think in the comments or with your phone calls. Is the Pac-12 still dreaming of Memphis? Is the door shut? Has Memphis shut the door? Has Memphis shut the door on the Pac-12? Maybe not. Maybe not. So let me know in your comments and with your phone calls, and I'll get to it. Okay, let's talk about Utah, and then we're going to get to your phone calls, and then you can get back to your loved ones. Jimmy Williams. Jimmy Williams, friend of the program. Let's take a look at what he said today. He kind of stirred it up a little bit. The 7-time Emmy Award-winning producer, director, TV executive, sports and media columnist, Athlon Sports, contributor to Forbes and Newsweek. Post Happy Easter to all. This week spoke to 3 Big Ten officials who are part of the vetting team who look into possible new members. To sum up what they told me, there's a great deal to like about Utah. And we feel they would be a good fit. But are they a lock? And I think this is supposed to read, but they are a lock? Question mark. I think that's where the confusion is. I don't want to speak for Jim. I haven't talked to Jim. But I'm guessing this is supposed to mean, but they are a lock? Question mark. We have plenty of candidates to go over before we explore adding more teams. At this point, no one is a lock. So I answered that tweet. I subtweeted, posted Mr. Jim Williams. And this is what I wrote. I can't speak for Jim, but I'm guessing this post is missing a question mark. But for the most part, with 2 clear exceptions of Notre Dame and North Carolina, I would agree with Jim's message from speaking to his, I was not speaking, from him speaking to his Big Ten sources, no locks. And then I made it more clear because, there's some goofy people out there that want to cipher everything that I'm saying. And of course, what I mean by Big Ten locks is if a school told the Big Ten they wanted the invite and agreed to the terms, the 2 locks are Notre Dame and North Carolina. Not locks as in these 2 schools will become Big Ten members. So hopefully everybody understands what I've been saying. What I've been saying for a long, long time. Okay? There should be no more confusion. Now, again, I look at my comments when I made that post, and there's still a lot of people questioning, which is fine. Disagreement, which is great. People are wondering why. How can North Carolina, if North Carolina called the Big Ten today and said they have the ability to leave the ACC, they've made the investment, they can get out politically with the Board of Governors, they're out, they can get it, they're going to sign this check, whatever, and they say to the Big Ten, we'll take the deal that you give us. The Big Ten, the presidents are going to immediately get together and vote North Carolina as the new Big Ten member. If North Carolina called the SEC today and said, we got the freedom, the ability, we have the check ready, we're going to take your terms, we want into the SEC, the SEC presidents would immediately get together tonight and vote them in. Now, they might keep it a secret, like they did with Oklahoma and Texas, until all this other stuff, until all these things that are going on in college football and college athletics, the House settlement and all this other stuff, the college football playoff, maybe they wait until all that is done. But if North Carolina says they want in, they could get in. They've got the money. The SEC and the Big Ten are not going to wait to vote them in. And if you check the comments, you see people disagreeing, great. But I'm just telling you, I've explained on many live shows why this is. The Big Ten and the SEC presidents want them. They want the flagship, the mothership university in the state of North Carolina, period. Both conferences want it. It's a battle over North Carolina, and we believe the SEC has advantage. I know about the viewership numbers. I know about all that. I get it, guys and gals. I get it. But the presidents want them for the student apocalypse, the growth in North Carolina, the increased footprint, the international students, the incredible research at North Carolina, what North Carolina does with the research, rubbing elbows with them for years. Florida and Georgia, Florida. I might have said too much there. Whatever. Look, both conferences would accept them in. But I get it. There is a lot of disagreement on that. But let's go back to the main point. Utah, the Rodney Dangerfields. I'll get to the Lakers and the Timberwolves in a second. Almighty Finn, we will talk about that for a minute before we get to your phone calls. Utah, Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina State, Pee Wee Herman. I think they're great. You said that. I did not say that. North Carolina State going after each other on the message boards, just like Utah and BYU. Thank you for the super chat, Preston. Those are your words, not mine. But I do appreciate the generosity so very much. Is Utah Carrot Top? Okay. Let's get back. And of course, I've already screwed this up. Okay, let's get back to this. Post Happy Easter to all. This week spoke to 3 Big Ten officials who are part of the vetting team who look into the possible new members. To sum up what they told me, there is a great deal to like about Utah. We feel they would be a good fit. But are they a lock? No, definitely not. Definitely not. We have plenty of candidates to go over before we explore adding more teams. Well, again, they are exploring. They are deep into it. The Big Ten definitely is. Now, are they? I don't want to get into semantics. They might not have had a legal first party talks until the settlement is completely finished. But they're talking. This is not like before. This is not like last year, the year before that, when people said the Big Ten and the SEC have agreements all done with these ACC schools, and I had to be the one that had to tell the truth. None of that was true. There was no done deals. There just wasn't. And I kind of think you can see the proof of that now. Because if there was a done deal before, it would have leaked by now. But there wasn't a done deal. There's a lot of talks going on. The Big Ten is exploring. Utah, when Jimmy says in the Post that 3 Big Ten officials are telling Jimmy that they'd be a good fit, those are the exact words that I've been told. Utah would be a good fit into the Big Ten. Are they valuable enough to bring on in? Are they going to be able to get into the Big Ten? They're not coming into the Big Ten in this realignment wave. The Big Ten has another mission at hand. Big Ten is still in the mind of unlocking Notre Dame, and they want North Carolina. And the chances of them getting both Notre Dame and North Carolina are extremely small. So something else is going to get involved with the Big Ten expansion, the next one. And we think it's going to be Miami. It could be a Stanford with the Notre Dame, Miami. It could be with the Duke. It could be with the Georgia Tech. Miami's in a pretty good spot, but it is North Carolina and Notre Dame that the Big Ten, that's their top targets. And they're still in this unlock Notre Dame. If the SEC takes a big scoop of ACC schools, how does Notre Dame maintain their media rights value without being able to schedule Florida State, Clemson, with the Big Ten and the SEC both at 9 conference games, with the Big Ten and the SEC having a crossover game? How does Notre Dame, how do they maintain their obligations to NBC? Now, I've been talking about this for weeks. I haven't gotten one answer from anybody. Not even an attempt. That is what the Big Ten is looking at, ladies and gentlemen. They're looking at what we're looking at, what you're looking at. How does Notre Dame continue on? How do they receive $55, $65 million in Tier 1 with NBC when they're not going to be able to schedule a Clemson, a Florida State, a Miami, a Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, USC every single year? There is no answer. So that's the Big Ten's frame of mind. Still, it's unlocking Notre Dame. Okay. So Utah is not going to be in this next realignment wave. I like to think that's not a shot at Utah. I'm just giving you my honest, what I believe to be completely 100% true. Utah is not a part of any of this. However, and this is where the Rodney Dangerfield comes in. After Jimmy put that out, I have seen comments of Utah might make it into a 28-team Big Ten, maybe into a 40-team Big Ten. Utah has been on the Big Ten expansion list, along with Florida State, Miami, Cal, Stanford, Kansas, Notre Dame, North Carolina, Virginia. They've been on that list. They might be at the bottom of the list, but they've been on that list. The motivations of the Big Ten. What is going to happen after this next big disruption? I do not know. I don't know if this might be the last big disruption for many, many years, for a few decades, or maybe not. You know, when you've got athletic directors and presidents and people going out there saying the next thing that happens is going to be more disruptive than what we've just been through. You know what they're talking about? What are they talking about when they say that? It's been a handful of them in public saying that. They're saying it in private. What do they mean by this disruption is going to be larger than the last one? The last one had USC, UCLA going to the Big Ten. It had Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC. It had the Pac-12 caving, collapsing. It had the Big 12 enlarging to a national conference. How can the next big disruption be bigger than the last one? ACC implosion, Notre Dame leaving their independence. That's how it happens. And that is what people that I talk to expect. After the massive victory, all of this was supposed to happen in 2033, 34, but now it's going to happen in 26, 27, 28 because of the massive victory by the Tigers and the Seminoles. So when this disruption is over, and we don't think Utah is going to be a part of it, what is the motivation for the Big Ten to grow in numbers after this? 8 years from now, 7 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What would be the motivation? If you bring on a Notre Dame like I believe they're going to, and I know 90% of you think I'm nuts, but if they bring on a Notre Dame and a Miami and a Georgia Tech and they go to 21 or they go to 22 or they stop at 20, the SEC brings on Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, Virginia that satisfies everybody in the SEC, they go to 20. Let's just say I'm on to something. And that I'm not on something. Let's just say I'm on to something and it happens like that. And I'm not the only one who's saying this. Else I would not be saying this. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But if all that happens and the Big Ten goes to 21 and the SEC goes to 20, what would be the motivation for the Big Ten to go to 24? There are two motivations in my mind. And neither one of them is lifting all boats like all these other expansions were about. I think once the Big Ten gets Notre Dame or whatever comes with it, I think the Big Ten is at peak value. And I think the SEC is going to be, if the SEC gets Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, Virginia, boy, talking about a grand slam. But anyways, if all that happens, what would be the motivation from going to 21 to 24 is not going to bring it on more value. It would be either one of two things. The Big Ten deciding, this formation, this construction of this conference is not quite working the way we thought. The politics of the issue of travel has become insurmountable. We don't want to lose a USC, UCLA, Oregon, or Washington. We're not going to lose them, but we don't want to lose. We want them to be fully in just like everybody else. We've just added to the Southeast and Notre Dame. Either with the Notre Dame, Miami, Florida State, Notre Dame, Miami, Georgia Tech, whatever that looks like. We might have to politically do this thing that we did not want to do. We might have to go to 4 pods of 6 schools. Might have to do it. Have our Olympic sports more regionalized. Have football in pods. Maybe we have to do this. And if they do that, because, the SEC is one big region, then you can see where the Big Ten is going to have to expand westward, and Utah is going to be heavily in the mix. Heavily. Utah, Arizona State, Stanford, possibly Colorado. But Utah would be heavily in the mix. So we're not, Utah would only be a candidate if the Big Ten goes to 28. Nah. Big Ten going to 32, Big Ten going to 40. No. If Big Ten goes to 24, Utah is heavily in the mix. We talk about relationships. I talk about relationships a lot. I probably talk about relationships being important in conference realignment more than all the other YouTube channels put together. I mean, it is so... It's Easter. It is so unbelievably important. It is. If the Big Ten has to go to 24 and regionalize itself more on the West, which they don't want to do now, at least the powers that be in the Big Ten don't want that. They don't want pods for football. They don't want it. The media partners don't. But we're talking about the next disruption after this one. If it goes to a Western, then the politics of the West in the Big Ten is going to play a big part in who gets selected. It just does. You know what? You can make an argument that Arizona State would make every Big Ten school or is a little bit more valuable than Utah because of the population and all that. And maybe that gets Arizona State in. You can make a good argument that Stanford or California, whatever. You can make all these arguments. But we know at Peek Around the Corner that it is Utah who USC would sponsor. They would push the Utah banner. And UCLA would probably push the banner of California, Stanford. Oregon probably wouldn't have much to say on it. I don't think they would have much of an influence on it. No shot at Oregon. I'm just talking politics here. That's the one thing I know a lot of things about the Big Ten. That is one thing I know about the Big Ten as much as anybody else. USC would push Utah. USC did not push Oregon, but they got in. USC does not have a veto pen like we said for many, many months. We said that Oregon, Washington, we're going to be able to get in. But I'm just telling you guys, that is a big Utah. When Big Ten officials are telling Jimmy, and I haven't talked to Jimmy. I don't want to put words into Jimmy's mouth, whatever. But when people say that Utah is a good fit, they are a good fit. If you want to go to the spreadsheets and say that Utah would not increase anybody media's rights, no, they wouldn't. But guess what? Nobody else is either. if the motivations is that the Big Ten has to go to 24 because they want to become more regionalized, then Utah is in the mix. There is one other reason why the Big Ten may want to go to 24. And that is if they do this breakaway with the SEC in the early 2030s. If they actually do this, the Big Ten might want to go to 24 for a few reasons. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but talking about, content, the Super League, whatever you want to call this SEC Big Ten breakaway, they want to make sure they have enough inventory content. And the Big Ten, again, may want to look at a more regional balance across the country. So there could be, when people say Utah doesn't bring in enough media value, correct. Utah is not a big enough state, although they're a fast-growing state. Look at their cities look at their towns and cities, but correct. Utah is not quite a big enough brand. They haven't won, whatever. They won a couple of Pac-12 champions. Correct. But if the Big Ten's motivations, because they do change over time. The Big Ten took in Maryland and Rutgers, not because they were big football brands, but they had to get into that second region. The motivations change a little bit. So the candidates change a little bit over time. And Utah checks the boxes of the Big Ten presidents. So I want to make it clear, because people are going to take this show, they're going to put it up on X and message boards, and they're going to misreport what I said. Utah, in our strongly held belief, is not a part of this current disruption. We don't think they're going to play a part. And the next one, after this one, if there is a next one, for the Big Ten, we think Utah is going to be heavily in the mix. Not a lock, but heavily a big-time candidate if the Big Ten finds reasons why they have to go to 20 to 24 or 21 to 24 or 22 to 24, whatever they're going to settle on in this disruption. Utah, right now, is the Rodney Dangerfield of X. And look, and there's a lot of recency bias here. Utah struggled last year in football, right? They got a basketball team that hasn't been all that good. And honestly, although I'm excited to see Dampier play in the Big 12 this year, coming from New Mexico, I don't have Utah. I got Utah doing okay, but I don't have Utah up there with Arizona State. I got Baylor as my surprise team. BYU's going to be tough. So I don't have them up there. But there's a lot of recency bias. It's like Utah has been one hell of an athletic program. They became AAU here in the last decade or so. And I think people have forgotten about all that. And quite honestly, and I don't expect people to know this, but the whole USC thing is rather important as well. Okay, we're going to go to your phone calls right now. Let me know how wrong I got it once again. But let's go to the Super Chats first. Xavier Wolf, SMU Mustangs will be the 2026 college football playoff champions. Holy smokes.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Call from
For Rick?
Rick, can you hold on for just a moment, please?
My pleasure.
I appreciate it. Xavier Wolf, SMU, the champions, national. Look, they've got. It's gonna be fascinating to watch Mr. Jennings, the quarterback at SMU. He wasn't even supposed to be QB1 last year. At the beginning of the season, he wasn't QB1 last year. He took over the reins. I thought it was a huge gamble by Lashley. I thought it was a huge gamble to take out Stone, and now he's going to be the starting quarterback on Northwestern. To do that, and then Jennings, he emerged. He got better and better and better, and then he kind of collapsed at the end there. But if he goes up another level in his play, holy smokes. But to watch his growth this year is going to be very interesting to see. Xavier Wolf, thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much. Kenneth Maynor, Mr. Pirate, Memphis, Tulane, ECU, USF, to replace North Carolina, Virginia, Clemson, Florida State seems the most logical way forward for the ACC, even if they also lose Miami, Georgia Tech, North Carolina State. Thank you for the super chat, Kenneth Maynor. Thank you so very much. I gave this warning out before. I'm going to put it out there again. Here at College Football's Peak Around the Corner, on April 8th, we put out, I just wanted everybody to know the direction that we thought things were going. Just to be clear, just to put the stake in the ground. If we get information, we're going to change it. But right now, we think this is where it's all going. But beyond that, I can't go into these other rabbit holes, because not until we figure out here at Peek Around the Corner, I have asked the question and nobody has the answer. The question is, how will the ACC handle the exit fee money when it comes to distribution among the other members? How do they handle it? How do they distribute it? How long do they hold the money for? Is it going to be a big balloon payment in 2032 after they do the next meteorites pack, or if they have to redo it with ESPN, if they lose these big time programs, whatever the scenario, we don't know the answers to any of that. I have asked, nobody knows. That is under lock and key in the ACC. And that is so important. We don't know the motivation. I mean, my goodness, if Louisville, and if there's language in this where it makes it, I mean, for Louisville to have to pay out $75 million or 100, whatever that is, to get out to go to the Big 12, they lose that money, and then they might lose another, all this money that should be coming to them because the other schools, the motivations for Louisville to actually leave the ACC might be incredibly small. Like, it might not even be, it might be stupid. Honestly. We don't know how that distribution might, so we don't know. There's so much we don't know about that distribution money. And that changes the calculus in so many different ways for so many different schools. I got to find that answer. Until we get that answer, I personally am not going to go down these rabbit holes, but I'm glad that you guys do. It's great speculation. Thank you, Kenneth Maynor. I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you so much for your super chat. Stephen McNeely, thank you for becoming an early peak member. 17 months. 17 months as a member of this program. Stephen McNeely, I do appreciate it. I'm so very humbled that anybody would want to be a member of this program for 17 months. You are, again, officially knighted, cloak and dagger. Rick, I appreciate your patience. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you for taking the call. To continue on your conversation with the hypothetical number 22, 23, and 24 in the Big Ten,
Yeah.
would Kansas not be considered a higher get than Utah?
Maybe they would. Maybe they would. Maybe they wouldn't. Again, it depends on the mission that the Big Ten is on. Overall, would they be a higher value? When you're just talking about your traditional values, yeah, they probably would. But again, what if the Big Ten is in need internally, politically? They're in need to add to the West again. They need to add a Mountain West. They need to placate something out there. They need to placate USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington. If that is the case, then Utah is heavily in the mix. In a world, Rick, in a world that has Notre Dame going to the Big Ten, if there is any expansion after that, I think it's about, of course, it's always about value, but it's probably going to involve other things that, for whatever reasons, need to happen if the Big Ten is going to expand again. Are they going to need Kansas? Maybe. But again, I think there's always other things involved other than straight media value. It might be even more so after post Notre Dame world of the Big Ten.
Who do you think would be Kansas's sponsor school?
Well, in the SEC, it'll probably be Missouri.
That's ironic.
Yeah, but it probably would be. That'd be a lot of tickets sold back and forth. That'd be a lot of stuff going on there. That'd be a lot of kinetic energy that produces money. I'm not sure. I'm not sure in the Big Ten.
Because you seem pretty confident about USC sponsoring Utah.
I am pretty confident about that, but I'm not confident that Utah would become a Big Ten member. But
I understand. No,
but
I'm talking about sponsorship. Yeah.
Yep, I'm real confident about that because
no, I was trying to figure who would be the Big Ten school to sponsor Kansas.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a problem.
Well, maybe. Maybe like an Illinois, maybe an Indiana, maybe an Illinois.
Okay. And then again, talking 22, 23, 24 teams in the Big Ten. Wouldn't they want to plant a flag in Texas?
Yeah, there may be a need for that. Yep. That gets back to whatever happens after this disruption. If Big Ten, if there's a need that we can't. Now, I gave a couple examples of what that would be. One is this regional thing they may have to go to. Second, the breakaway, if that happens, there may have to be a need to expand. But either way, then the Texas schools would be in the mix as well. And that's how they get in the mix. Yep.
And that would be one of the 4 Big 12 Texas schools.
Yep.
So the Big 12 is subject to some serious poaching.
Or or we might not see anything happen for a very long time.
Or maybe not. But they're the ones that are going to get gobbled up to meet the West demands.
Yep.
Thanks for taking the call.
You got it. Appreciate it. John Pham Lore, I think the Big Ten should want Arizona State, especially if the U.S. continues to go all in and trying to reshore computer chip fabrication with a lot of it in Arizona. Arizona State would be heavily in the mix. Heavily in the mix. Heavily in the mix. Remember now, if the Big Ten would go to 24, if they have to if whatever that reason is, be it the albatross of travel or the internal politics or the break, whatever this is, if they want to become more regionalized and there's in the Olympic sports where they're truly only travel a couple times outside of their pod when it comes to baseball, softball, whatever the sport, whatever it is, and in football, if they go down that direction, and they're not now, but if they have to, then you're looking at a West that has to have 6 Big Ten teams, if it happens. And now you're looking at it, and 2 more schools out West. You're going to have Stanford in the mix. You're going to have Utah in the mix. You're going to have Arizona State in the mix. You're going to have Colorado in the mix. You're going to have California in the mix. It's just the way it is. And I think Utah, I would not have Utah at the bottom of that list. Would not have Utah at the bottom of that list. In fact, again, if you go, and I haven't showed this, if you go into the National Institute of Health funding, where Miami does such a great job, Utah is in the top 50 as well. They're like 39. So they do the correct research, the Big Ten, what they're interested in.
Call from
Lewis.
Mr. Blue Devil, thanks for calling. I appreciate it, sir. The floor is yours.
Happy Easter, Greg. I haven't had a chance to call in for a while. This is going to be a brief call.
You got it.
It's a beautiful day here.
Yes.
But I think you're wrong on Notre Dame. And I just believe that where they are, what the university is about, and the financial position they're in, they're not going to have the walls closed in. They will not join a conference until there is a breakaway. And that's not coming with this step. I mean, so that keeps the ACC relevant, including a lot of private schools, a lot of Catholic schools, and it keeps the Big 12 somewhat relevant because once there's a breakaway, whoever's left out of it is completely out. Right now, it's already a pretty dim future for the Big 12 and the ACC anyway. We saw that in the last football playoffs. It's going to be tough for any of them to compete in this format. But once there's a breakaway and they're basically done, so I don't think Notre Dame leaves until then. And so they're not just going to have their walls closed in on them. So I disagree with you there. And nobody wants to talk about the future, but there are 25, 30 programs, a lot of state flagship schools with 60,000 seat stadiums that are going to get left out of college football based upon some of these moves. And I don't know what exactly they're supposed to do in this situation. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on those 25 or 30 schools, even if the moves of the SEC and the Big 10 to 20 happen, because it's going to be hard to compete.
Yeah, it is. It is going to be hard to compete. It's always has been hard to compete, right? With the top, 12 programs, brands.
Always, but there were times, there were times in the past when teams were close or in the mix. Even Arizona State this year was close.
Yep, they were close.
Gave Texas the game.
Yep.
But, it's going to get worse and worse, at least in football. Basketball, a little different story. We saw Houston. We saw Duke. I mean, it was more conferences. It wasn't just dominated by the two, but that's basketball 25%, football 75% of the revenue. And in football, I just don't see where it's going. It's not going to a place that's going to be good where the Big 12 and the ACC is left out. But they're still very well-funded. Well, a lot of these programs are well-backed with their own billionaire donors. I'm curious to see where it goes, but I don't think Notre Dame goes until there's a break-off, and if there's a breakaway, you hope it includes enough schools that at least most major players with legitimate spending to get into that breakaway will get in. Mm-hmm. But 40 would not be enough to break away. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
So that's my thoughts. But we'll see. You might be right about it, but once Notre Dame folds, it's really a disaster for the ACC and to a lesser extent the Big 12 too. If they fold into a conference, and I don't think they'll do it. And I used to want them to join a conference, and now I kind of hope they stay out because they at least keep. You can't break away without Notre Dame.
No,
because they still carry enough. They carry enough. They carry enough cards. They carry enough strength that even if they play a weaker schedule, if they go undefeated, they're going to be in the playoff. You can't have a national championship. They're not in the mix.
The main question I always get to is, how does Notre Dame fulfill they have an obligation to NBC. They need to have a sliding scale contract with Notre Dame, with NBC, where they have to have enough what NBC would consider tier 1 scheduling for their home games. And if you lose Clemson and Florida State, and they go off to the SEC, and the SEC goes to 9 conference games, and they have this crossover game with the Big Ten, it is very difficult for Notre Dame to be able to maintain a schedule worth it to NBC that they would pay them top dollar. And I went through an article. I went through an article last year in June of 2024, where at the time the new athletic director Bavacqua at Notre Dame was saying, boy, this is getting hard to schedule. Really hard to schedule for us. And if Florida State and Clemson would leave the ACC, wow. Well, now we're at the point where they might leave. They have the opportunity to leave. So that's
going to be interesting. But at some point, the 30 or so schools left out, and I've heard that theorized that you're going to go 9 conference games among the 2 top leagues, and they're going to play each other once for 10. Yeah. Basically meaning there'll be no more home-and-home series with Notre Dame or with the ACC that's left in the Big 12. And I just think if that happens, someone's going to see this as litigation. And I don't think they want to sue, because at that point they're almost creating a monopoly by making it impossible for the rest of the Power 4, it's supposed to be the Power 4, to play home and home. And the Power 4 teams aren't going to do a one-and-done on the road to a Big 10 or SEC school. So I know that, and if that happens, that's devastating. Yeah. Because, again, you're leaving a lot of schools out. It's one thing to leave out a lot of the group of 5 schools that aren't, or more urbanized schools that aren't doing. You're leaving out flagship schools. You're getting into politics in those states. You're getting the funding. If the right people at NC State, if they're left out and they get in control of the state government, they could squeeze North Carolina's budget in retaliation. I just think something's going to have to be worked out. Everyone knows who has the money, but I don't know that you can completely exclude everyone without. And they don't want to everyone gets afraid of litigation. Look what happened with Florida State, Clemson, the ACC. No one wants to litigate where it's going to just lock people completely out. Unless there's a breakaway. If there's a breakaway, which might happen, there have to be enough teams to make it viable. And that's when I think Notre Dame would join. I don't think they're going to join now, and that's going to keep everybody else at least at the table. And that's what I hope, because if not, I think you got a much weaker product, and there's only 40 teams playing big-time college football, and the rest are kind of left out in the wilderness.
Got it. Hey,
okay. Have a great Easter.
Lewis, most people agree with you, sir. Beautiful call, my man.
Well, thanks. Have a great day.
You got it. Great call by Lewis, legendary caller, PATC. I was talking to somebody, and we were talking about the Notre Dame thing, and I ask everybody that I can. I ask all of you. I ask everybody. I ask the question: how does Notre Dame keep making the money that they're making?
Call from
Morris Simmons.
I did not get the name. Who is this?
Morris Simmons.
I still can't get it. Warsis?
Morris Simmons.
Oh, Morris Simmons. Can you hold on for a moment, please? Just hold on for a minute. I appreciate it. Morris Simmons, Seminole caller, is on the line. Look, again, I was talking to someone about it. It's like, I can't. Notre Dame, and what is their schedule if they lose a Clemson and a Florida State? What is their schedule if Clemson and Florida State are in the SEC? What is their schedule, their home schedule, for NBC to give them the money that they get now? There is really no I don't know. No one has been able to get an answer. This is why it was so important for Notre Dame to have the scheduling agreement in the first place. It's why the rotation, if you notice Notre Dame's ACC schedules, they always had a Florida State, a Clemson, and Miami in their season schedule. I mean, even before this latest ACC settlement. So, so Morris Simmons is on the line. So I'm just going to give this example. Then we'll get to Morris here. Look at, okay, so if this happens, think about it this way. Notre Dame, Florida State, right? They've been kind of, they've been on both. They've been on the opposite sides, man. I mean, Notre Dame said, yeah, we'll go ahead and sue Florida State. Florida State says we're suing the ACC. Notre Dame voted to sue for the ACC to sue Florida State. Notre Dame was the one that got, that got people together and said, let's bring on a Stanford, California, and SMU. Florida State said, no, we don't want that. They've been on opposite sides. There's a relationship issue there. Okay. So let's say, for the sake of argument, the SEC invites North Carolina, Virginia, Florida State, and SEC, which I think that's the direction is going. Let's say it just happens. Okay, look at what Florida State is going into. Look at the world that Florida State, Morris Simmons, is going into. They're going to be in the SEC. Look at the schedule that Florida State's going to be having. Look at the exposure that Florida State's going to be having. Look at the SEC network. Look at their baseball schedule. Look at what Florida State is walking into. They're a huge brand, but they're a huge, valuable brand. They're walking in the SEC. Their schedule is going to get even more valuable. They're going to make more money, especially in the future. This unequal revenue sharing, this Band-Aid, that's cool and everything, but in the future, Florida State is going to gain everything by going in the SEC. Look at that schedule, that 9 conference game schedule, that crossover with the Big Ten. Now, Notre Dame is sitting there, and they're looking at what Florida State just did. If what we're saying is correct, we're all pretending here. Notre Dame is looking at Florida State going into the new world. And what is the new world at Notre Dame at that point? A reconstructed ACC 2.0 privately led. I do not buy it that Notre Dame is going to say, okay, to maintain our legacy of independent football, we are going to settle for this. NBC cut the check that Notre Dame is going to get is going to drop significantly. Their exposure, their Olympic sports, everything, especially with North Carolina out of there. I do not see that. I don't see Notre Dame being able to accept the fact that Florida State is going into this incredible world of increase everything, and Notre Dame is willing to take 3 steps back. I'm not buying it. That's just my opinion. Morris Simmons, the floor is yours. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. The main thing I really wanted to say was when it comes to Florida State. Who's to say, and I keep saying this, who's to say? Well, first let me say this. When you say UNC and Virginia coming into the SEC, and you used to say, well, somebody, Florida State and Clemson would grease the skid for UNC and Virginia, whatever their shortcoming is for TV ratings and brand value. Okay, that's true. I'm not going to say that's not. That's true. But also, let's say Florida State say, well, hold on a minute, we don't want to go to the SEC, and let's say the Big Ten is where we want to go. At the same token, it puts everybody in a holding stage, because at that point in time, now the ball gonna be in the Big Ten corner, because truth be told, let's say we still have UNC and Virginia slated to go to the SEC, but let's say the Big Ten say, okay, Florida State, we get Florida State over here to the Big Ten. SEC still going to take UNC and Virginia. They'll just find somebody to replace the slot for Florida State. They still will have Clemson. They probably, I don't see them moving Miami there, but they'll put somebody there to fill that slot. At that point, Notre Dame is still in the same situation, regardless if Florida State was in the SEC. Notre Dame will have to find them a home, because NBC, the value then for them to pay out to Notre Dame have dropped. It really plummeted. So at that point in time, Notre Dame going to wind up over here in the Big Ten. Now, one thing I also like to ask, if Florida State go into the SEC, that would be good also for Florida State, like you said, because of all the different sports that we have, because we also have a strong baseball team right now. We have a women's softball team. We have a women's soccer team. So they have won national championships. So it ain't like Florida State is going to know amongst giants. We're a giant ourselves. So my main thing I want to say, Greg, is there's so many scenarios that this could be played out right now.
Yes.
Because everybody is relying, well, SEC or ESPN could rely and put pressure on Florida State. Hey, we want you over here. But at the end of the day, Florida State could say yay or nay. That ain't where they want to go.
True.
So if they balk at it, then what? You're going to have to put somebody in there. And to be told, like I said several times, I know fan base, half of us want to go to the Big Ten. There's some that want to go to the SEC. But either conference we go to, Florida State would do well in.
Oh, yeah.
So
yes.
that's the main thing. I done got to the point now, I just want the dominoes to fall.
Yeah, I know. Look, let's go to the scenario that you talked about. So now we're just pretending here, Morris. Okay, so we're going like this. We're going North Carolina. So the SEC have approached North Carolina, Virginia, Florida State, and Clemson, and said, we're taking you guys in pro rata, full freight. Come on in, whatever. At that time, Florida State is, they now, the problem is, here's one of the problems. A conference doesn't give you an invite unless they know you're going to say yes. So there's not going to be an official invite until Florida State says, yes, we will come. But let's just go back a half a step from that. Let's say Florida State is really pretty confident that the SEC is going to play the old semantic games. We're going to give you an invite. If you say yes, we'll give you the invite. But before that happens, Florida State goes to the Big Ten and says, look, we're real confident that the SEC is going to invite us. They're about to invite us. And Clemson and North Carolina and Virginia And, of course, the Big Ten are going to have their spies out there, and they're probably going to know that Florida State's going to get invited, or maybe not. So then what does the Big Ten do? They're going to call Notre Dame. And the Big Ten's going to say, look, we have reasons to believe that the SEC is about to pick up North Carolina, about to pick up Florida State. Are you guys coming in? And if you're not coming in, then we might have to supersede you, or we might have to cut you out, Notre Dame. We might have to do the old Florida State-Miami blend here before the SEC. You know, if you're not coming in, if we don't get the Florida State-Miami blend, then we're not going to get the value out of this next disruption that we think we can get. So something like that, Morris, might happen. You're absolutely right. I think that is an option. That is a pathway for Florida State to get into the Big Ten. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But look, either way,
Yep.
whatever conference we go to, ride or die Florida State. So we might wind up in the SEC. We might wind up in the Big Ten. I done got to the point, like I said, I just want the dominoes to start falling. So we need to get out of the ACC.
Yeah. And I think you will.
All right, Greg.
All right, man.
And happy Easter.
You too, sir. Morris Simmons.
Okay.
Morris Simmons. You know what? I got this problem here. I don't know what's going on. There we go. Great call by Morris Simmons.
Call from
John Grove.
John Grove, can you hold on for just one moment, please?
Of course.
I appreciate it. I'm a little bit behind here. The Evil Badger, Ryan Willie. Rodney Dangerfield was a smart man. He filmed a movie at the University of Wisconsin. Evil Badger, Ryan Willie. I do not know if that is an indication that somebody's a smart man by filming a movie at the University of Wisconsin. But I thank you for your super chat. Thank you, Ryan Willie. I appreciate it. Rodney Dangerfield. Utah Utes are the Rodney Dangerfield of college sports, college football right now. I also want to get into, before we get to Mr. Grove here, we got, you know what, Stephen McNeely, I do apologize. I did not get to your comment. Big Ten could decide to go smaller with the top 12 teams, leaving to form a huge money conference. I suppose they could. I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon. The Big Ten top schools could join with the SEC top schools. But they are so different from each other. There is not a lot of commonality. I don't see it happening, but yeah, it could happen in the future. I don't think it's going to happen in the next 6 years, 10 years. Appreciate it, Stephen McNeely. One more thing before we get to Mr. Grove. People have asked about the Lakers and the Timberwolves. First of all, it's going to be a tough series. We knew that coming in. Luka is the best player in the NBA. Or SGA is from Oklahoma City Thunder. But whatever. Luka is 1 or 2. When he plays against the Timberwolves, he is the greatest NBA player of all time. Luka destroys the Timberwolves. Period. He had a really good game last night, but nobody else showed up for the Lakers. It's going to be a long series. Could go either way. The Timberwolves have got a feisty team. They got a good coach. They got a lot of players that play, unlike the Lakers. But it's going to be a tough series. Lakers in 7, Timberwolves in 7, something like that. Grove, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Why, it isn't the Flug meat-only empire. How's it going, my friend?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, sir?
I'm tired. It's been a little bit of a slow Easter. Not exactly the weather I expected, but it's okay. It's all right. I wanted to ask two things real quick. Well, for one, it just popped up on the top of my head. If Utah's Rodney Dangerfield of college sports, then K-State is without a doubt the Mike Rowe. All right. If you want to talk about Mike Rowe and dirty jobs, K-State isn't afraid to get gritty. The program embraces physicality, trench battles.
Yes.
Grinding out wins without the glitz.
Yeah.
You don't have to win the prettiest of ways. Maybe that's the Iowa, but that I'm just kind of all over comparisons right now. Anyways, so one of the things I wanted to talk about, and I don't mean to go off kilter a little bit, but this week, Chuck Todd, who is a political pundit, he recently just left MSNBC. And he also made a statement on a podcast on YouTube saying that he believes 2029 could spell doom for broadcast television, especially at the local level, and that's the expected year, but the NFL is expected to opt out of the media rights deal with CBS and Fox, and apparently the Chuck Todd, the guy who was on the podcast, he said he was already predicting that the move would break the business model from either CBS and Fox as well. I don't know if that, because if you're talking about disrupting the traditional TV pattern with CBS and Fox, that kind of screams like you're leaning towards more streaming with Amazon Prime and Netflix. Would that kind of open the book a little bit towards college football following along that same route?
I'm sorry, what was the end of that?
Oh, I was just asking with the NFL, you already seeing the NFL with several of these Christmas Day games. We're leaning towards Amazon Prime and Netflix for several of our games. If that opportunity presents itself for the NFL to break the business model, or like break the traditional TV model with CBS or Fox, does college football kind of then follow along those same lines and kind of go to the streaming barriers and leave CBS or Fox behind? Or maybe does that open up more opportunities for the traditional TV partners to dive deeper into college football?
I did read what Chuck Todd said. I also read another report of what Netflix is thinking about in the future, and I don't know. That's
a whole different can of worms.
Well, it is, but it kind of who's going to take over Fox? Who's going to take the NFL content to where the NFL wants to take it to? The money and the exposure, the global. I mean, Netflix would be one of those options, correct? But then
Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Netflix would be one of them. Amazon Prime.
Yeah, but then I read a report on Netflix, and it's like they don't know if they want to go all hog in on anything. I think they just. It sounds like in the future they just want to take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of the NFL, maybe a little bit more of the NFL beyond Christmas, blah, blah. But it doesn't... I don't know if Netflix is going to be in the business of taking over a lot of anything. But that, again, that is an article that I read just recently, yesterday or the day before, that is trying to project Netflix out 4 or 5 years from now. Which is fine. That's what we do here all the time. But, man, it is hard to... Fox might lose the NFL. The traditional model might break up. That might influence college football. Maybe that is why we see the SEC possibly getting in this closer relationship with Netflix. There's going to be, maybe the Big Ten kind of gets more close with Amazon, but I don't know, man. I'm not going to bet against Fox when it comes to the NFL. But we shall see. I don't really have any strong opinions on any of this because it in that universe there is so many different variables that can come on in. So I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, you're talking about Fox and CBS. They have nearly 500 local affiliates across the station, and you're talking about just without NFL games on Sunday. I mean, that's essentially. I mean, I live here in in Manhattan, part of the Topeka television market, and part of their emphasis is playing the Chiefs games every Sunday. And if that goes away, like if you don't see Chiefs football on CBS or Fox, then what else really are those stations known for besides kind of college football, college sports? When they decide to dig deep into that, I mean, you're talking about a lack of competition that's already contributed to the breakdown of local news, not just with TV, but you're also talking about print and radio as well. But, I mean, you're talking about the NFL. The NFL has all the power in its hands right now, and it's arguably the single most, it's honestly possibly the biggest piece of content that could really break away. Like, it's a dictator, Greg. It's like a dictator in which I honestly don't know if there's anything else except maybe the Olympics that could try and potentially reach towards the NFL's pinnacle and try and lean towards one way or another where broadcast is going over the next few years. I don't know. It's just, I mean, I'd probably have to dig deeper into that. I mean, there's still a whole lot of things to break down, and that's certainly not on the agenda as of this moment, but I just thought I'd kind of throw that out there just to hear your thoughts.
Well, I appreciate it. I just don't really have any thoughts. I mean, it's so, it's so big. It's so,
yeah.
I don't really have any thoughts beyond what I just said.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's completely fine. That's completely fine. Anyways, I'm going to take off, but hope you have a great day, Greg, and thanks for letting me tune in.
You got it. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
God bless.
You too. Appreciate it. Beautiful call. Yeah, I don't really have a strong opinion, Mr. Goldby. I read what Chuck Todd said. Interesting, very interesting. Then I read what somebody thinks what Netflix is going to do in the future. Bill G, thank you so much for your generosity. Holy smokes. Another 5 gifted memberships. Christopher Headley, Mark Bowman, Nitwit, Devil Frog, Papa K, thank you. You guys have been gifted a membership. Please say thank you to Bill G for his incredible generosity. Unbelievable. Thank you, Bill G. I'm very humbled by all your support. You truly help us keep the lights on here. We do a lot of work, and I appreciate how you do it. You're giving memberships to people. Thank you so very much. The 5 of you that were gifted a membership, please say thank you to Bill G. And all of you are knighted, cloak, and dagger. Look. Thank you, Bill G. Look. On the subject of Notre Dame, I am fully aware that most people disagree with me on the Notre Dame aspect. That we think the walls are closing in. We think Florida State and Clemson are going to leave the ACC by hook or by crook. We think North Carolina is going to leave the ACC. We think Miami is a very strong possibility. And if all that happens, we don't believe that Notre Dame will have any interest in supporting an ACC that would not give them the resources for them to compete at the highest level. Notre Dame has never been that Notre Dame. Notre Dame has been able to stay at their current, they've been able to stay above the stratification line because, first of all, they're of great value. They can survive on a standalone contract. Them being independent gives them a certain amount of value to their boosters. But we've also know that Notre Dame, they've said it in public, they have said it in private. If you want to forget about the private stuff, fine. Listen to what Notre Dame has said in public. They need to have a top competitive Tier 1 football schedule to continue their football independence. They have said it in public. Since 2010, there's articles out there, there are interviews out there. Bavacqua just said it last year. If they lose Clemson, they're not going to magically be able to go, well, by God, now is the time we join the ACC and we join all these private institutions. How does that even work? Again, nobody ever comes up with that answer. You know what the only answer they come up with is this. If Notre Dame wanted to join the Big Ten, they would have already done it. And you all know what I think about that logic. It doesn't work. It sucks. That is not conference realignment. If it would have if that was ever going to happen, it would have happened. That's not how the real world works. That is absolutely holy smokes. That's the same stuff I got with every other story that I have reported on or broken or covered or talked about. Great. If it was going to happen, it would have happened. How many times do you need to see that logic absolutely is mind-blowing moronic? If Notre Dame wanted to leave the Big Ten, they would have already done it. Look, Notre Dame might not join the Big Ten, but it has nothing to do with Notre Dame needs to be able to have the top tier exposure and resources to compete at the highest level. They're not going to take a step back. Notre Dame ain't going to join no conference that is 3 steps lower than what the ACC is right now. If they're going to join a conference, it's going to be the SEC of the Big Ten. The question is, are they going to join a conference? So far, they haven't. Only because they've been able to keep going as is. But if they lose Clemson, if they lose Florida State, if they lose Miami, or they're a threat to lose Miami on their schedule, how do they make it up? How do they make it up? On this Easter Sunday, somebody answer the question, how does Notre Dame provide NBC or anybody else the football schedule that is needed for Notre Dame to make the money that is needed to compete at the highest level? I'm waiting for an answer. I get it. No, I get it. A lot of people, look, Notre Dame, they've independence 100 years. Greg, they're not going to the Notre Dame. I get the emotion of the argument. I get the history of the argument. I respect people's opinion that Notre Dame ain't going to join the Big Ten. Most people agree with you. But please don't be saying I just got a DM during this live show. I got somebody sent me a DM saying Notre Dame, if they were going to go to the Big Ten, they would have already done it. What you're saying is there's never going to be any changes in the future by anybody, anywhere, because it would have already been done by now. That's the same way that people talked about Rutgers going to the Big Ten. There's so many examples of that. If Texas wanted to get out of the Big 12, they already would have done it. My God, that drove me crazy. When on X, at that time, Twitter, when I said that Texas was not going to sign the extended Big 12 gore, they were going to keep their exit hurdles clear, and the SEC was the number one choice. You know how many people said if Texas would have left, if Texas was ever going to leave, they would have already done it. Please do not use that logic, because it's not logic. It's absolutely ridiculous. That's what I want to say on this Easter Sunday. Jimmy touchdown. The other issue Notre Dame has besides USC is that all other indies have evaporated. Yeah. Yes. And they're all going to conference schedules. Bavacqua just said this last year. What happens if we lose Florida State and Clemson? He's the one that said it. No, that don't mean nothing, Greg. That don't mean nothing. None of this means anything, Greg. If they were ever going to leave the Big Ten, it would have happened in the 80s and the 70s. Like, the world of college football isn't drastically changing right now. Whew. All right. You got to have faith, baby. You got to have faith. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We've been on the air for almost 2 hours. I want to thank Jimmy Touchdown. You're dead on about Notre Dame. If Notre Dame wanted their Olympic sports in a watered-down mid-major conference, they would have stayed in the Big East. Absolutely. Absolutely. Nothing in look, you want to say that Notre Dame has never joined the Big Ten? Congratulations. Everybody on this planet knows that. But they have never taken a step backwards. Suddenly they're going to be okay with taking a step backwards? I'm not buying it. I could be wrong. And there's a lot of smart people who disagree. Lewis is very smart. He did a lot of smart people. But just don't tell me that nothing ever happens in the future, because it would have, if it was ever going to happen, it would have already happened. That singular, supposedly logical statement, nothing bothers me more than that. You all know this. I've erupted on this. Someone, I'm not going to show you the DM. Someone just sent me a DM on this live show. If Notre Dame would have joined the Big Ten, it would have already happened. You know how many times people said that about Washington and Oregon? When I kept reporting that they're coming in the Big... No, Greg. Great. Oregon's Washington time to join the Big Ten is when USC and UCLA joined. And it didn't happen. So therefore, it ain't going to happen, because it hasn't happened. Good luck pretending that nothing is going to change in the future. Holy smokes. Hold on 1 second here. Jimmy Touchdown, thank you for your super chat. Let me get to, whoops. Let me get to your other super chat in a moment here. Woo! I'm sure the person was trolling me, because they knew that that was going to get me off the handle. That is just one of the, I don't want to say anything bad. It is Easter. It is Easter. I got to keep it cool here. I got to keep it cool. Hold on 1 second here. Thank you, Jimmy Touchdown, for the super chat. I appreciate it. And I already did the other ones. Thank you, Jimmy Touchdown. I agree with you. I don't know if you want that on your tombstone, that the fat guy from Minnesota agrees with you, but that's how it is. Was it Western? No. In fact, it was a person I've never, I don't recognize the handle. Again, Notre Dame might not join the Big Ten. I disagree, but they might not. But the line of, if they were going to do it, they've already would have done it. That just blows my mind. I do not know how somebody can type that out. I don't know how that works. The NBC TV contract, again, NBC is concerned about the Big Ten ratings, right? Okay, so the Big Ten's talking to Ohio State. Ohio State look like they're going to play more night games or less five. They're trying to make the adjustments. They're trying to make NBC happy. Because NBC is spending a lot of money for Big Ten content. NBC is paying a lot of money to Notre Dame. And suddenly Notre Dame loses Clemson and Florida State and Miami and the ACC implodes, and NBC is going to be okay with the Notre Dame watered down ACC football schedule. And Notre Dame is going to be okay with making about as half as what they've been making. Everyone's going to be kumbaya. They're going to be closing ranks because Notre Dame can now be part of an ACC 2.0 conference with a bunch of private schools, and somehow that's going to warm the coffers of Notre Dame, and everyone's going to be delighted, and those Notre Dame fans are going to be grateful to go to those Notre Dame football home games, not playing Clemson, not playing Florida State, not playing Miami as much as they used to, not playing USC. I'm not buying it. And on this show, I got to give you guys my strongly held opinion. When I have it, we shall see. We shall see. I have no idea what genetics is saying. I don't even read what people send me anymore about him. So I have no idea what that guy is muttering anymore. Love the rant. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Now we are going to end this live show. We've been on the air for over 2 hours. I appreciate everybody for coming on in. I already read off the people who were so kind in sending me a donation. Great phone calls. If you haven't done so, please hit the subscribe button. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Thank you for joining us on this Easter Sunday, April 20th, on a Sunday. Go enjoy your family and your friends and your loved ones. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.